This is the Limestone Lowdown. Hear the sound when you live to the issues all around. From every corner, let's make it clear. The change we need is starting here.
Hi everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Limestone Lowdown. Here's your host Jared with my wife Amanda. I've lived in Limestone County since 2009. I've worked for the post office here, so I know a good bit about this place. Circa 2020, I introduced my lovely bride Amanda to the city of Athens, and let her tell you a little bit about the city of Athens and what she fell in love with.
Yes, so hey everybody, I'm Amanda. Like Jared mentioned, I moved here in 2020. The first event that Jared took me to was Pep Rally on the square. I just fell in love with it, where all the stores or windows are painted, and the band and the cheerleaders and the football players come out, and the whole town comes out to celebrate the kickoff of football season. And I named it my little Hallmark town. We actually ended up finding a house very close to the square within walking distance. There's several events hosted on the square throughout the year. You've got your Sip and Cider, your Christmas open house, the Christmas parade, and then my favorite event throughout the year is the Fridays After 5, where you've got food trucks that come out and vendors, and then there's a band in the evening. It's just a fun with food and fellowship with the community. And so that kind of brings us to how and why we got started and wanting to do the Limestone Lowdown. We've been involved with city council and some other group organizations over the last 6 to 8 months, and we've had some things come up that we really haven't been able to get answers to. And we just decided that, we've got a little bit of a following. There's been some citizens that have created a Facebook group, and anytime that we've run into people, they're like, we fully support you, keep doing what you're doing. And so that's kind of given us the courage to kind of go out on a limb here and start this podcast, and hopefully you find it interesting and informative. We just kind of want to give the facts to you the way that we see it. We hope to have guests from the community on here in future episodes to kind of for them to talk about their perspective and things that they've had happen with them, that issues that are still unresolved years later. So we'll just kind of get started on how we started with this. So welcome, and hopefully you enjoy it.
So I think how we got started was like everybody else across the nation. We noticed a large influx of Haitian immigrants seemingly overnight. And I think naturally, brought up a bunch of questions, because literally there were charter buses day and night dropping off hundreds of folks. So that's what started our, I guess, down this rabbit trail.
Inquisitiveness? I don't know what word to use. It started this rabbit trail that we started digging into, and we still haven't found the end of the tunnel. It just more tunnels keep bridging off, I guess.
Or I guess maybe like an onion. You peel
back the layers,
and
like
there's still more layers.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a better one. Yeah, peeling back the layers of the onions, and 8 months later, and we're still
smelling onions.
Yeah. So we noticed, just like the rest of the nation, the heavy influx of the migrants under the Biden parole program, and we never thought that it would come to our sleepy little town of Athens. In May of last year, tons of people started seeing charter bus loads being dropped off in the Walmart parking lot, the Hometown Grocery parking lot, seemingly in the middle of the night. People would have videos from Walmart and saying, like, here's another bus load here. And one thing that people repeatedly noticed was it looked like they were scurrying like ants. They would get off the bus and they knew exactly where to go. there was one resident who ended up following these buses because after they would get dropped off, then it was like they started this charter bus, system where they would pick up, it was almost like shifts. So they would be picking up at like 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, all the way till like 9 o'clock. And then you would start the pickups and drop offs for the evening shifts at the same time. So one resident actually followed the buses to where they were going, and it was the chicken plants in Russellville. And it's like, why?
And that's like several hours
Yeah,
away.
it's like an hour and a half. So they're like a 3-hour round trip. Same, some were going to Gunnersville, which is still over an hour drive. So it's like, who is paying for these charter buses? Who is setting this up? And if they are working in other communities, why are they living here? So it appears as though this was set up with someone within our community. This was infiltrated to come here on purpose. And as residents here, we were like, man, this is going to put a strain on our community for hospital resources, medical resources, doctors' offices, schools, all kinds of things. It just put a lot of questions, like what was our school system going to be like? Most of our schools were already, overcrowded as it is. So do we have the bandwidth to be able to accommodate that? The migrants that are here.
I think you need to stop a second and reason you're saying the overcrowding, everything. Talk about the growth of this county, and then this on top of that.
Right. Yeah. So Limestone County and Athens City has been the number one growing county and city for the last several years in a row. We've it's grown. I don't want to say overnight, because it's definitely been a growth over the last like 15, 20 years, but the last few years has definitely been very, very fast. We've had a lot of businesses coming in here, a lot of neighborhoods being built. People just started having questions. So people started having questions about, why Athens. So we went and spoke to our district councilman. We asked, why Athens? Why were they here? Really no real answer. I talked to the mayor for about 20 minutes on the phone, and he ended up somewhat turning like combative, said that he was working with state legislation on still connecting the dots, and I'm venturing to say we're 8 or 9 months later and he's still connecting the dots. So he challenged me to go and reach out to our state senators, Tommy Tuberville, Katie Britt. He said that Congressman Dale Strong was going to be here in Athens at the Beasley Center for an event August 17th. And so that was like, okay, we've got, at this point, I think it was like the first week of August. I don't remember the exact date, but it gave me like 10 to 14 days to get all of this stuff done so that I could make sure that I was going to have a chance to meet him and talk to him and see what we needed to do. And like Jared had mentioned, like if I knew then what I know now, man, this migrant issue would have just been a little blip on the radar. So that's from there. We ended up calling Dale Strong's office and talked with Dylan. Talked with him for a while. They were like, if you don't get this in the news, then no one knows that there's an issue in Athens. So we started reaching out to local news media outlets, to any sort of platform that would listen to us. There was a lot of residents who reached out to us through social media, who supported what we were doing. They saw the interviews that we had done. We ended up getting a personal phone call from Dylan asking for Congressman Strong, that he wanted to meet with us in person. And, I told him, like, we've got this following of people that support us, and how do we keep this traction going? And he was like, create a website, go live. In August, I was not ready to do that. And so it's taken me a while, but, here we are. And hopefully we're able to bring, some issues to light, answer some questions that you all may have that you haven't been able to. So that's kind of what our story is and how we got started. So Jared.
What we kept coming back to, our initial question, and it's really still our question to this day, is why Athens? Um, so going over the why Athens, noodling over in our head, asking other folks. One of the things we came up with, I think it kind of comes down to the power structure of the city of Athens. And if you're not from here, then of course you wouldn't have a clue. But 5 city councilors and 1 mayor basically run the whole city. So within that, you're talking about the school board, you're talking about the cops, you're talking about the fire department, you're talking about the water department, gas department, et cetera, et cetera. School board all runs through the city council and the mayor. So they control it all. They control who's in the positions of power within these organizations. And even a city comparable to us, Decatur, Hartselle. Huntsville's a lot bigger, but all of them, every major city surrounding us has a completely different power structure. They have a mayor and they have a city council, but all of the organizations that I just mentioned are their own entities. And so when you start looking across the country, what cities and what they have in common, it's a mayor and city councilors controlling everything.
Yeah, I'm sure that you've seen, like in Springfield and in Sylacauga, that some of the videos that have went viral have been at their city council meetings.
Albertville.
And it's the power structure of, all the power goes through all of your councilmen and the mayor, your 5 city councilmen and the mayor. And there's no checks and balances anywhere else. That is something that we saw. And that kind of brought us to, looking. So I just pulled up on the Athens website that says the responsibility of the city council, they vote on all budgets, ordinances, and contracts for the city of Athens and Athens utilities. According to state law, the city council must also appoint the city clerk, the fire chief, and police chief. The Athens City Council also appoints the members of the Athens School Board and appoints members of the Council of Aging and other entities. There's various other boards that they also appoint their board members to. I think this is kind of more talking about like paid positions that they appoint. But, when you're looking at other surrounding cities like Decatur, Huntsville, they all have their own board. They all have their own pot of money. So the way that Athens City is everything goes through this general fund. Is there a budget for the police? Is there a budget for the fire department, the gas department? Yes. But they don't operate as their own entity. It's still ran by the city council and the mayor. And the same thing with the school board. The city council appoints the school board members, and the school board appoints your superintendent. So ultimately, the city council runs the school board too. These are just positions that should be elected positions, that the people should have the voice on who is going to make these decisions and when you accomplish. So, we've asked the mayor and tried to propose that, everything be broke off into its own entities. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, but I think that it would be something that would be beneficial in the long term. It would take, years. You're going to have to get your other local, delegations involved and do a bill to propose for it to be voted on. But I think that that's definitely something that's worthwhile in the long run.
Not only that, but with all the growth that you've mentioned earlier, that it's almost, dare I say, they cannot handle it anymore with just the small amount of people. That it's time with the growth and everything else going on, that it's really gotten to the point where it's past time, that it should have been broken off. And I think that we've reached the crux of what this small amount of people can do. And it's kind of, or not do. It's kind of plateaued now. So the growth is no longer going to be shepherded in a productive way. It's going to be held back because people can only do so much. So you're going to have to do this whether they want to or not. It's going to have to happen for progress to move forward without several things just kind of blowing up or things, falling under that need to be taken care of.
Well, and I think too, like with the utility department and the police and the fire department, with all of those operating under the general fund, and then they delegate out money for people's for salaries and things like that. I don't think that it really leaves enough room for pay raises. We've talked to several people in each one of those areas, and they have said that like they stay working in those jobs because it's convenient to home. They don't want to have to drive to the bigger cities, but they're being paid significantly less. And with our city growing so fast, we don't want this to be a training ground where we bring people in and train them, and then it's constantly a revolving door. We want
not only a revolving door, but with all the growth, you're never going to have enough people.
Right.
Can you imagine all this growth and there's not enough police officers to patrol everywhere? There's not enough firefighters to put out all the fires, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, talking about the police, I know that, and kind of going back to the Haitians a little bit, that we have seen several accidents that have happened. Damage has been done to vehicles by the Haitians. That was one of the concerns too, is that they were lining up getting driver's licenses, and people were asking questions like, what are they doing here? And they're like, we're just told that we have to give them their driver's license. With the language barrier, there was just a lot of questions, and it still goes back to why Athens, and I'm still not received any of those answers as to why.
Our local administration just continually wants to put it off on a federal level, in which we understand federally they are endorsing it, but it comes to a point where you can't just keep saying it's federal, because it's happening here. And you're going to have to deal with it one way or another. You can't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, I just don't believe that. There's plenty of things you could and should have done about it, and you just didn't. And again, that goes back to our question of why Athens, and who is profiting off of it, and who is it benefiting? Because as we've said, these folks just stay here. They don't have an investment here, because they're being bused so much. They don't even have a chance to build any kind of community. So it's like, why Athens?
Right. And one of the in the midst of all this, there's a family that I have met and I have developed a relationship with, and they were living in horrible conditions in a house that needs to be torn down. They were paying ridiculous,
exorbitant amount of rent.
It was a house that I wouldn't even let my dog step in, much less sleep in. And they were paying a ridiculous amount of rent. And so I bent over backwards for literally a full 30 days on contacting the immigration office in Huntsville, the health department here, to help with food stamps. They have a little baby here that was like 7 months old at the time, and it was nearly impossible for me, being an American citizen, trying to help them. And I know that we've all heard these stories, that they are getting thousands of dollars in food stamps, and they're getting money towards rent, and they're getting this and they're getting that. And some of them probably are. I'm not saying that they're not. But this one particular family that I have been helping, they do not get any sort of government assistance at all. They do have a work visa. They are, their child was born here in the States. So he is technically, legal and an American citizen, has Social Security number and all of that. And I've helped them get into, better living conditions. They got denied food stamps because, he makes too much money working at the chicken plant. But it's, they do come here for a better life. But the question still remains, like, why our community, why here, and still really not, getting a whole lot of answers. It's still kind of where we're at. This is kind of just the introductory on what got us started. We want to start covering some more issues that have been going on, just to kind of make you all aware. We've been getting some attention from certain city council members. We have been served with threats of litigation, which to me is just an intimidation thing to try to silence us in our First Amendment right. We are still here. We're still trying to make a difference in the community. And hopefully as time goes on, I don't know how long this, that we'll end up doing this, but as long as we've got people that want to hear what's going on, and we have people that will come out and we can interview to kind of tell their perspective and their story, because in the midst of just working this the last 6 or 8 months, we have had dozens of people that have talked about the corruptness or the way that the city did them wrong, or everybody's got a story, and it's just like, how did this city go this long without this being noticed? Like, how did this happen?
And I think we would just like to wrap up and say that if you followed us this long, then hopefully you'll keep on going. That this is quite a tale, and hopefully that is the longer we do this, the better we can get at it, and telling it that this is just basically the tip of the iceberg. That it is quite a tale, and hopefully you guys you guys can join in and follow us along with the ride. And with that, we would like to close our first episode.
Yeah, and just to kind of give you some of the things that we do have coming up, January 6th is the regular county commission meeting at 9:00 Monday morning. And then there's also a special meeting that they're having January 6th for the Athens Limestone County Library. That it's been a 15-month work in progress to finally come to an agreement over the joint resolution. Hopefully the city does right by the county and gives 2 slots to of the board, which is also again appointed by the city council. Just a quick tidbit: the city appointed people to this board that don't even live here in Limestone County when there were 7 other applications. So anyways, that meeting is going to be Monday afternoon at 3:00, and hopefully we'll get to cover that in a future episode. And then Athens City Council meetings are the 2nd and 4th Monday. Regular business meeting starts at 4 with the regular city council meeting following. So lots to come, lots of stories to talk about over the last 6 or 8 months, and then hopefully we'll get spun up to current things with city council. So I think we can wrap up our first episode, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
And as they say, it's always the first episode is always the best because it's the first, but it's also the worst because we're learning. So please understand that, and just go along with us. We promise you that with anything we do, we don't do it halfway, in for a penny, in for a pound, so we'll get better. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Limestone Lowdown, where we break down the issues, keep you informed, and give you facts straight from the source. Remember, your voice matters. Your vote counts, and your community thrives when we stay engaged. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay involved. Until next time, keep questioning, keep advocating, and keep shaping the future of the Limestone area. We'll see you on the next Limestone Lowdown.